Haja. Who else
Installed
has
what,
installed?
Mr. Shiv?
Power BI, Power BI.
Oh, okay.
All right, good, great, great. How many of us have started practicing, or are still stuck with SQL? Don't worry, the field that you have chosen, I've told you before, that's a field that requires a whole lot of learning, right? You have to continue to learn, so don't be weary, right? Learning is our job, right? Take for example, I think I mentioned it to us before, right? You will learn you will learn cloud computing, right? You learn containerization, you would have to learn Microsoft Fabric, you'd have to learn, of course, for those that are interested, machine learning, deep learning. You have to learn a whole lot of things, right? I don't want to scare us, but there's a whole lot of learning that we have to do, right? So the journey just started, right? I have over 14 years of experience in this field, and I'm still learning. So virtualization is one of the things that you have to learn. It's just a whole lot of learning, right? But that is how we increase our earning power. That's how we increase our influence in the field, right? So don't be tired, right? But what I know is that learning would always make up for a whole lot of stuff, especially in earning power, in influence, in what you know, in the ability to deliver your job well, right? So it's very, very important, right? Learning is an ongoing process. I have students presently who are reaching out to me, even from Ireland, some of my students in Ireland, some of my students in Canada, some of them in the US, some of them in Germany, some of them in UK, of course, a whole lot of them in UK, right? Asking me for what is my next program for them, right? Learning is very important. That's basically what I'm saying, right? These guys have done data analysis, they're already working, but they still want to learn a whole lot of stuff. And I don't know, I think learning is cheaper in Nigeria than, of course, so they reach out back home to ask for what am I onto at the moment, what am I teaching. Somebody still reached out to me from Ireland today to ask me what am I teaching. She needs to learn this, she needs to learn that, and I said, okay, I'll put all of that into consideration when I'm setting up my next training, so that she can benefit from it. So don't get tired of learning. That's basically what I want to say to you. Don't get tired of learning, right? I have learned a whole lot of technologies that I've not used ever, right? But the truth is, when I'm talking to you, I bring all of that wealth into what I'm saying, right? And it makes me unique. It makes me stand out in the crowd. It makes me perform. It makes me deliver my skill perfectly, right? A whole lot of learnings that I've done, right? So I'm just encouraging us this evening to not be tired. I know that it can be frustrating, right? But one way that helps me live through it and not be weary and all of that. Of course, I get jobs, I get all of that, right? Also, is that even before now, I consider it. I consider my lifestyle, right? I consider data analysis, anything that has to do with data. Actually, everything that has to do with tech, not just data, right? Data is just my major focus, right? But anything that has to do with tech, I consider it my life. I consider it my journey. So when I'm going to die, right? When I die, I want to be described as the guy who you know who understood data, or you know those things, right? Just somebody who really worked on data and really delivered on data, basically, right? So I try, or maybe something around tech, just put a tech guy on my graveyard, and when people see it, they say, okay, this guy say I'll probably be in tech, doing tech in heaven if there's tech, right? So basically, just what I'm saying. So I consider it a lifestyle. So when I'm learning, because not because I want to increase my earning power. Of course, that is the translational effect of it, but it is just for me to know, just for me to be able to, in terms of tech, be one of the solid tech guys in the room, if not the best, right? So one of the top guys in the tech room, or one of the top guys in the room, or maybe the only tech guy in the room. Actually, that's basically my goal, right? So please, I know that it can be tiring once again, right? I'm doing all of this so that people can join in, but Keep learning. There's a whole lot of learning to do. Keep learning, right? Awesome. Last class we talked about. Who can remind us what we talked about? Okay, okay. Who can remind us what we talked about last class? Anybody?
We talked about adding columns to a table.
All right, awesome. Right, so we had a whole lot of columns. We added columns last class, right? That is connecting your data to Power BI, right? We connected a singular data to Power BI last class, right? And we have more towards to bring in. So we're going to do a whole lot of bringing in today, bringing a whole lot of data. I apologize. I don't know how it skipped my mind. I thought I had sent them only for me to check this evening and discovered I have not sent the data that I was supposed to send to you. So I'm going to do that after class, every single data that we're going to be using for this program, right? But just follow me through, right? So that you can see all that I'm doing, pay attention to it, then would bring in the data afterwards, right? But I'm going to bring in a whole lot of data this evening so that you can see. Right, so what we have here, right? So last class we looked at, I've told you that the Power BI has three different views. We have the report view, we have the Power BI, we have the report view, we have the data view, and we have the model view, right? So we're still working on the data view, right? And this is the data that we brought in last class. Can you remember? Last class, we looked at how to now begin to transform data, right? So one thing I want to give you or say to you this evening is that if you are in this data view and you want to transform a data, say take for example you brought a data in and you loaded it in instead of going to Power Query to transform it, right? The data is in already, but you want to do some transformation on the data. Say you want to merge some columns together and all of that, right? What do? You click on, you go to your home. Are you following me? Go to home, you go to transform data. Can you see under what? Under queries, you go to transform data, you click on what? Transform data, right? That would connect you back to Power Query. I hope we all get that. I hope we all got that, right? I hope we all got that. So you go to that, right? So you can see. Remember I told you.
Sir.
Yes. Talk to me.
Sir, are you sharing your screen? Because we can't see anything.
Oh, wow. My screen is shared. See? Can anybody see my screen?
Yes, we see your screen.
I need more confirmations. Can anybody, who else can see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen, Mr. Shim.
All right. Ebuka, you might have to wait a little to see if it will come up. If it doesn't come up, just log out. Log in again. And join class again. All right. So this is Power BI, right? We know all of this before. So now that we're inside the Power Query, all right, the Power Query is that platform in Power BI where we edit or transform the data before loading it into the system, into Power BI, right? Power BI can undo as much data as possible. And the reason is because, as I think I mentioned it before, the reason is because Power BI does not look at the data as data. It looks at it as a query. Are you following? Let me show you. All the data that this project, right? Let's see the size of this project. I think it's on my desktop. Let's see the size of this project. That project has a lot of data inside of it, right? But let me see. I think I have it on my desktop here. Where's it? Okay. I think I have it inside of here. Where is it? I can't find it. All right, good. Look at the project. I hope you can see my screen. With all of the data that I have, the data itself is about 1.3 kilobytes. But even with all of the accessories and all of everything that is inside the data, it is just what 934 kilobytes, right? So why? Why is it like that? The reason is because Power BI stores data as queries. And I mentioned to you, I think I mentioned last class that even though we say that Excel can only undo about 1,048,596 data rows of data, right? I mentioned telling you that if you bring in your data in Excel as a query, it can undo as much as 25 million rows. And it's the same thing. Remember that Excel and Power BI, they share the same engine, right? So it's the same process here as well. It's the same process here as well. So by default, right, Power BI does not bring in the data as data, right? It brings it as a query, right? The query basically is the result of an SQL statement. Are you following me? It's the result of an SQL. So when it looks at the same queries that you return in SQL, those very light queries, that's how Power BI looks at the data when you bring the data in. Hence, right, it means that data is kind of light. It means the data is light. If you look at it, it will tell you that 20 columns of 9 plus plus. So all of the data that we have here, all the data is not loaded yet, right? But as you scroll down, you see them unveiling one after the other. That is because they are a result of a query, right? So it's very important to note that. Very important to note that, right? So last class also, I spoke to you about the transform and the add column menu, right? And I said that these two menus are very important because with these two menus, right, we can, with the add column, we can add columns to a table, right, from existing data or from a new data, right? We can add new columns to the table, right? Last class we looked at how to create an index column. Can you remember, right? You can duplicate a column by selecting the column and clicking on the duplicate function here, right? You can do a whole lot, right? Which we'll see much more later, right? Then also you can work on a single column and transform it without having to add a new column. Are you following? Take for example, look at this prefix. This prefix is in capital letter, right? This prefix is in capital letter. I do not need to create a new column for it. All I just want to do is to create this prefix and bring this prefix into a init cap situation, right? Or a proper case situation where the first letter is capitalized and every other letter is a small letter. So how do I do that? I select the data, right? Then I come to format. Can you see? I select the data, but I'm inside transform now, right? If I do this in add column, it's going to create a new column, right? But because I don't want to create a new column, what do? I click on transform, and I go to format. Then I say capitalize each word. If I do that, can you see that column as now the data in that column is now in init cap, right? So you can see, I told you last class that also every applied step is stored here, right? All the applied step for everything that you do, every single step that you do is applied there, right? It's stored here, some sort of a macro kind of situation, right? Now, having said that, let's proceed. So also we looked at how to work with date last class. Can you remember? How many of us were able to do some of these things that we did with date last class? If we're able to just, let me see you, a show of hands if you're able to. How many of us were able to do that? Awesome. Sammy, awesome. Awesome, Ibuka. Oh, great. Mama, awesome. 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 All right. Now, if you have not been able to do that, right, the videos are on YouTube, right? The videos of the class are on YouTube. You can also you can always go through them, right? So, but on a quick recap, right, I told you that when you're working with dates, right, our root date column, the root date column, that is the original date column here, is birthday. When you select birthday, right, you can either transform a column, same thing, or add a new column. And last class, we added new columns from the birthday column, right? We added new columns. These columns were not present in the data, right? These columns were not present in the data. We just added them last class, right? We added them from this. So this was the only data that we have. But from there, we're able to extract the year. Can you see? We're able to extract the year out of what? Out of the data, right? We're also able to what's called down, you know, perform start dates, get to the start dates, get to the month in name, and so on and so forth, right? And all of that, right? So it is possible for us to what? For us to be able to do that, right? Now, today we're going to be starting from one single situation, right? Let me look at right. So I want to work on the gender column, right? In the gender column now, I have three variables. I have three levels or three class of data, right? I have female, I have male, and I have NAs, right? NA meaning non-applicable or not assigned, right? So of course, I've showed you that if you want to see the quality of a column, right, you go to quality to see, right? So how many NAs do I have there, right? I can go to comp profile to see how many NAs I have in the data, right? So the NA there is very tiny. Can you see? The NAs there is about 9 of them, about 9 NAs, right? So, all right. So which means that it is preferable. It does not affect my data in any way, right? Somebody's in class. Let me bring that person in. Displaying hide and seek with class. All right. Having said that, right, I want to go into adding a new column. Right, I want to add a new column, right? And this time around, I want to be able to, what I want to do, let me show you, is that I want to give a full name or full description to each of these values, right? M should be male and F should be female, right? So I want to write a conditional statement, right? I'll click on conditional statements. Look at it. I hope you're following me. Click on conditional statement or conditional column, sorry, right? Then I'll call this gender underscore name, right? Call it gender. Okay, let me use.
Sorry, please, Mr. Shem. So,
Yes,
please,
yes,
when you in the conditional column,
you go to okay, go to add column. Click on the gender column that you want to work on. Go to add column. Then you will see conditional column. Are we good? Are we good? Are we good? Are we good? Can I continue?
Yes,
I'm not
please.
getting responses. Okay. All right. So conditional. All right. Conditional column. Right. So
yes.
Now it's asking me for the new name of this column. What do I want to call this column? What do I want to call this column? So I'm going to call this column gender gender description. Let's call it gender description, right? Gender description. All right. So if column, what's the name? Gender now. If column gender equals what value now? I'm using the data type, right? If it equals M, what should you do? Call that what? Male. Are you following me? Can you see that it's easy? It's easy. If gender column equals what? M, right? Then what? Output what? Male. Add another clause, right? If, now remember that we have three words. We have three classes in that data. So if the gender column, right, is equals to what? Female, F, right? Push out what? Female. Are you following me? Else,
Sorry, Mr. Shem.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Shem, you know, last week you told us to save and apply. Be something.
Yes, save and
So,
apply. Close and apply. Close and apply.
Close and apply.
Yes.
Hey, but we cannot do what you are doing now on this.
Why?
Oh, okay, I thought since we've saved and applied, we won't be able to do all
That's-
this again.
No, you can. That's why I started with, if you remember, let me cancel this off. Let me, that's why I said that when you have brought in a data into Power BI and you still want to transform the data, I told you that the first thing I mentioned in today's class was to come to your home. Once you come to the data, come to the home, then you come to transform data. That's what I did. So I'm still working on last week's data.
Okay, thank you.
Next one. All right. I hope everybody's all on the same page now. Any other question? Are we all on the same page now?
Yes, we're
Awesome.
with you.
No, sir.
All right. Eh?
No, sir.
What happened?
I did not join when you started.
Hey. Oh, you were in last class. You were there last class, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just continue from where we stopped last class.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other person? Any other person? All right. All right. So I'm going to start that again. So of everybody who's just joining, right? What we are starting with today, right? Even though we've said a whole lot of things before now, right? But what we're starting with now is that we want to what? I want to make more expression from this gender column, right? The gender column basically just tells me M and F, right? So I want to hard code it. I want to be able to get the full data, right? The full data, right? I want to be able to get the full data. Now, that is, get the full description of the data. M meaning male and F meaning female, right? So now I've told you that there are two ways to do that. There are two ways to always doing that, right? Now, for the sake of this class, usually I'm just supposed to transform the column directly. But for the sake of this class, I'm going to what? I'm going to use the add column option and create a conditional statement, right? How do I make this male and female and male and female and so on and so forth, right? So I'm going to click on conditional, add column, conditional column. Can you see? Add column, conditional column. Add column, conditional column. Then it gives you this dialog box. Can you see this dialog box? Let me know if you can see this dialog box, right? This is the dialog box that would help us perform the action we want to perform, right? So the name of the column will be gender Gender description, right? Gender description, right? And now I'm saying that if of course, it's a conditional statement, right? If you were in my class, of course, where we know each other, right? You will know that I've talked about if statement in Excel, we've talked about if statement in R programming, and so on and so forth, right? So you are looking at the same if statement here, except that you're not writing an if statement, right? You're just using a wizard, or you're using this dialog box to create an if or a conditional statement. So it's an if statement, right, which we're all familiar with. So we're saying that if gender, which is the column, right? So you want to obey these operations, right? Column name, operator, the value, then the output, right? So if gender equals what? Equals male. Of course, we know that male is, M is what we have in our data. Can you see? M is what we have in our data. And we know that we want to add code M to be male. So we're saying that if gender equals M, then Then male, right? I could have stopped it there, but remember when I showed you that this data has three levels, or it has three classes to it: male, female, and I should do what?
I can't see your screen.
Wait. How many of us can see my screen? Trying to beat time actually with this battery. How many of us can see my screen? Okay, hold on. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and reshare my screen now. So hold on. All right. So just let me know if you can see my screen. I'm resharing my screen now. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
No.
Awesome. Alaja, just hold on, it will show up. Let us know when it shows up. It will show up. It's usually network. If it does not show up in under 1 or 2 minutes, log out of the class and log in again.
It's showing now. I
All
can
right.
see it.
All right. All right. So if gender equals what? M, right? Then what? Male, right? Now I'm supposed to just say else, right? Female, right? Else female. But if I do that, it means that I have two class of data. But this situation, I have 3 class of data. I have male, I have female, and I have NA, right? So I'm going to add another clause to take care of female. Else if gender again, gender equals what? Female. If cos F, we put what? Female. Right? Else, what do? We put what? Let's put unassigned. Right? If I click on OK now, you see the column, right? Can you see the column? That's the column that we just created. Can you see unassigned? Male, female, unassigned, right? Let's promote that column. Let's shift it back to the side of gender.
Sorry, please. I am in else if. I don't know
Yes.
the third clause. Pardon, a third clause.
The third clause is to take care of what is left. You used the first clause to take care of male. You use the second clause to
Yes.
take care of the else if to take care of female, right? The third one is going to take care of every other kind of data. So that is why I put unassigned there.
Okay, am I going to add clause or the bottom one?
No.
Says,
Just the else, the last else.
okay, I would say unassigned.
Yes, just in that else box, just put unassigned.
Okay.
We good? Are we good? All right, so that is a conditional statement, right? So we used what? We used, what's it called? We used the gender column, right? To bring, let me change this to text, right? I'm changing that column to text now, awesome, right? So we have a text column now, right? Which is, so this gender column has translated to what? To this gender description column. How did we do that? We used what? We used a conditional statement, right? We used the conditional statement, right? You can do the same. Your assignment, right, will be to do the same for what? For the annual column, annual income, right? We're going to talk about that much later, right? All right. So we can do the same for what? Look at homeowner, right? We can do the same for homeowner, right? We can say homeowner. So I can say add a column. Now this time around, I'm not going to add column. Just hold on. I'm coming. All right, so we'll go to add column, add column, conditional column, right? This time around, I'm going to say, I'm using what's the homeowner, right? Homeowner equals what? If you're a homeowner, right, and your value is Y, right, return what? Return yes. Right, now this time around, I don't think I have any other clause in that statement or in that column. It's just Y and N, so I'm going to just say no, right? So if I say okay, what have we done? Generated a new. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
I can't hear you.
What column name do? Should we give a new name?
Yes. Now, if you look at it, I did not give it a name here. So the column is here, but it came with a column name custom. I can double click on it and just what? And just say homeowner description. Right? That's the new name to my column.
Sir.
Are you following me? Yes, ma'am.
Sir, Mr. Shem, the gender that you
Yes,
did
ma'am.
the other time, right?
Yes.
Previously, what
Yes.
heading did you give it?
Gender description. Gender description.
Okay.
This is it here. Gender description. Are we there?
Yes.
Can I move on?
Yes.
All right. So we're still on connecting and shaping the data. Connecting and shaping the data. All right. I'm just trying to see how much we can do with this data before we move on. Right. So let's assume that we have another business case that says that we should extract, right? We should extract, let's extract the username from the email addresses. Extract the username and the domain name, right? Extract the username and the domain name from the email address, right? If you look at the email address, an example here is john24@adventures-works.com, right? Now, if you have a business case that says extract the username from the email address and also extract the extract the domain, right, from the data, how do you do that? How do we go about that, right? So we're going to select that column, right, and we're going to go to add column again, right? But this time around we're working with text, so we're going to go to text, right? Can you see from text now? I'm under from text, right? I can say that extract. So I click on extract. Can you see? I click on extract and I say extract text before, right? Now I have length, I have first character. We looked at first character the last class. We also looked at last character the last class, right? You can also use the range, but I could have used the range here, but the range is not the same, right? This is about 5 characters and this is about 10 characters before the at, right? So you see that before at, most of them are not what? They are not the same, right? They're not the same both after me. They are not the same number of characters before at, right? So what I can do is I can utilize the at delimiter as what? As a separator, right? So what do I do? So I can say that the text extract the text after or before a delimiter. If I click on before delimiter, right, it comes here. Can you see? So what's my delimiter? I say at. Are you following me? I say at. If you look at advanced options, it would give you more options. Scan the delimiter, blah, blah, blah. So, right, I'm just going to stick to that, right? Your delimiter can be anything, right? If you look at this data, let me cancel this again. You see that in this data, we have 2 delimiters. We have 3 delimiters. We have at, we have adventure, we have hyphen, we have at, then we have hyphen, that is after adventures, then we have dot, which is so we have 3 delimiters in that data, so you can use any one of them, right? But in this situation, what we need is the username, right? So since it's the username that we need, username comes before the at. So I go to transform data from text, right? I go to extract, right? And I say before what? Text before delimiter. My delimiter is at. If I say okay, right? Let's look at it. Can you see? So you see all of them. So I can just double click on that and say username. Right? Username. Right? Let's drag that to the email address section. Right? Awesome. So you can correlate to see. Can you see? John 24, Eugene 10, Ruben 35, and so on and so forth. You can see. So what we have done here is that we've extracted their username. Are you following? Please let me know if you got that.
Sir,
Yes, talk to me.
Mr. Shem, if we
I can hear
extract,
you, ma'am.
if we extract the username, is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
original email address is going to still remain there in that column?
Because we use the add column. Because I did that under add column.
Oh,
If I
like,
transform it, I did it under add column. I've told you, it's easy to make that mistake. It's very, very easy to make that mistake. You need to be able to identify, what am I trying to do? Am I trying to add a new column, or I'm trying to transform a particular column, right? If you are transforming a particular column, you do it under the transform. If you are adding a new column, you did that at the add column, right? If I transform this data, what it means is that I would only have John 24. I only have the usernames. The email address will be gone, right? That's why I did it from what? From add column. So it will create a new column that is generated from the email address column, which is this column that you have here. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, we want to also add another column, which is what? Which is the AdventureWorks column, right? We want to add, sorry, the domain column. So I'm going to go to extract again, right? This time around, I'm going to say text between, right? Text between, right? I'm going to say my text. I want to extract the text. So let us look at AdventureWorks. AdventureWorks is between what? Is between at and dot. True or false? So start at and stop at what? Dot. Right? Start at. See what I did there? Start at. Rapper. Start start at. I hope you get what I'm saying, right? And stop at dot.
okay. Please, are we adding column or transforming? Because I
adding
think
a
I
new
made
column.
it in okay.
We're adding a
you.
new column.
Okay. I went and took
In this
transform.
situation, in these situations that I'm talking about, we're adding new columns.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to say okay. Right. Let's go and look for that column that we've added. Can you see AdventureWorks? So I'm going to promote that back to beside. All right. Can you see? So I can change the title to domain. Domain. Are you following me? Now, so that you understand what I mean by transforming data, right? Now, look at this data domain. I don't want to add a new column. I want to convert this data to uppercase. All the AdventureWorks in this column, I want them to be added. I want them to be in what? In capital letter, in uppercase, right? Do I need to add a new column? No, right? All I just need to do is go to transform to do that. I go to transform, right? I go to format and I say uppercase. Are you following me? Right? So in that situation, you see, can you see the difference between both of them? To add column, a new column is created. To transform, it transforms the already existing column that you have selected. Does that make sense? Can I continue? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I need responses. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
I hope we're following. Please
Yes,
follow me.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. Now, having said that, right, let's see what more can we do with this data. There's a whole lot that we can do with this data, but I don't want to spend too much of time with this data. But before we leave this data, right, look at the name. Can you see the name here? Can you see the name under properties? Can you see my cursor? AdventureWorks _ customers, right? The name seems very long, right? The name seems very long. So what if I can change the name? What if I can change the name? How do I change the name of the table? How do I change the name of the table, right? Of the query, sorry, not the table now. Of course, it's a table, but query, right? I can just say I want to change the name to AW, right, customers, right? AW customers. I can say AW customers, right? If I say AW customers and I click on enter, what happens? The name is what? The name changed. Can you see? AW customers, right? Now that is done, right? That is done, I can go to my home, right? I'm done with this data for now, right? There's still more that we're going to do to it, but let's just move on so that we can bring in more data before my battery goes off, right? So I'm done with it for now, so I can just go to close and apply, right? If I go to close and apply, right?
Sorry,
Close and apply.
Miss, I didn't see how you change the name of the data. I didn't see that at all. My system just went. I didn't see the cursor.
You will see it. Don't worry. I'll redo it again.
Thank you.
Madam Woodward, I hope you're following. Madam Olatupeju, I hope you're following. Sammy, I hope you're following.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Ebuka, Biola, Mr. Allowance, Madam Olaide, you came late. Madam Susan, sorry.
Sir, I'm still driving safe. Thank God I carry my laptop, sir. I got shut up today, sir. It's not easy.
Gently.
Yes, sir.
Don't worry, the videos are
Yes,
available
sir.
for you to go through.
Yes, sir.
So please concentrate on driving, I beg. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Having said that, so I'm going to go back to transforming that data so that I can show you where I changed the data name, right? I might have to buy fuel tomorrow. All right. As okay, don't let me say it so that I don't spoil my recordings. So we want to transform the name of the data, right? Mama, can you see my cursor? So you come to your right, you see properties where you have name. When you click on it, you can change the name of the data here. Can you see? I hope you can see it, ma.
I see your cursor.
Can you see my cursor?
I can't see your cursor. Where is it?
Wait, can you see my cursor? Is that I'm rolling my cursor? Can you see? Okay, if it is Toba Duro, right? Can you see on your look at your right, right? Look at your right, the right of your window, right? You see properties.
Okay.
Can you see properties? Can you see where
Yes.
name is? Just click on that box and change the name to whatever you want it to be. Right? You change the name to whatever you want it to be, right? The name is changed, then you close and apply. So at the moment, I'm done with that, so I can close and apply. All right. So if you look at it now, my data is here, right? So let's go back. Let's bring in another data. Let's bring in another data. So I'm going to go to text. Now, I can also bring in data from what's it called now? Okay, let's bring in some other data, right? We brought in our customer data, right? Let's bring in product category. Let's click on that to say open product category, right? I'm bringing in that data now, product category. All right, so it's just a very small data. I don't think I need to transform it. So I'm just going to load. Okay, let's transform it. Let's change the name a little bit. Let's work on the name. The name seems very long, right? So I'm just bring it to in here. All right. So product category is just a very tiny data. So we're just going to say AW underscore product underscore AW underscore product underscore category, right? So I've changed the name, right? I can close and apply now. Awesome. Right? Close and apply now. All right. All right, can you see that the data now is here? Can you see AW underscore product underscore category? So I go again, right? Go to that data, right? I click on customer and product subcategory, right? Product subcategory. Click on OK, right? Click on OK. Now this is the product subcategory, right? The product subcategory. So I'm going to load it in. All right. These are the product subcategories. So I'm just going to load it in. I'm going to change the name as well to AW Box product subcategory. That's all I can do with the data, right? The data is okay. So I'm just going to close and apply so that data is loaded in appropriately, right? I'm bringing on the data that I want to use, right? I'm bringing on the data that I want to use. Are you following me? All right. So pay attention to it because that is how you're also going to bring in your data, right? So pay attention to it, please. Right. Then I'm also bringing in the next data now. I'm going to bring in the next data. I'll remember that all the data I'm working with are CSV files. That's what I'm using text/CSV, right? I'm going to bring in products now, products. Awesome. All right, so this is my product table, right? So I'm going to transform this data. Let's see what we have in full form, right? In full glare. Let's see what we have. Awesome, right? So this is a table that has 11 columns and 29 rows. Can you see? 11 columns, 293 rows, right? 293 rows, right? This tells me everything about my column, right? Tells me everything about my column, right? Tells me everything about my column. So if I look at this now, I want to look at it. Okay, product key, product subcategory. Can you see? Can you see the product keys, product subcategory? Remember, we have a product subcategory table, right? So we are looking at elements that we can use to join the two tables together already, right? So product subcategory. This is the product SKU, the product name itself, the model name, the product description, the product color. Right, product size is what we have here, right? Product style, right? We have product cost, we have product price. This is the product cost, this is the product price. So basically, we can look at performing an arithmetic operator from here to know how do we calculate the profit from these values, right? From here, I can see that I can generate a product, another column called profits, right? Which I would subtract from the product price. I'll subtract the product cost from the product price. But when we get to understanding DAX, we'll talk about all of that, right? We'll talk about how to use DAX to do all of that, right? So we're just still looking at the table. We're seeing that, okay, I think the table is fine. We can also, the only thing is we can change the name to AW product, right? For consistency with all we have already, right? So we do that, then we say close and apply, right? So now if you look at it, what I'm doing, right, is that I'm bringing in all my data. I'm bringing in all my data that I want to work with, right? I'm bringing all my data that I want to work with, right? So what do we have? Where is it? Right, it's loading in. Awesome, right? So we have products now. Awesome. All right, so let's bring in another data. Let's bring in another data. All right, we're bringing in this time around returns. Let's open returns. We'll talk about returns fully, much data as well, right? All of these much data I'm talking about is tomorrow. So please pay attention. We're going to be doing a whole lot tomorrow, right? So these are the product and the returns. We'll look at this data as well. Let's just transform it, change the name, and we bring it in, or change the name to bring it in. I'll send all of this data to us for tomorrow's class so that we can, I would advise that we bring all the data before class tomorrow, right? AW returns, bringing on the data to your, bring all of them into your environment before class tomorrow, right? I promise to send the data to us, right? I'll send it to the WhatsApp group so you can get it from there, right? So returns is also good, so we can close and apply. Close and apply. Then I want to bring in the sales data, right? Now I want to bring in the sales data, right? I want to bring in the sales data. Now the sales data is a little bit more different from what we've been doing, right? Returns is there now. Now, if I open my data to you, let me open my data to you, right? If you look at it, I do not have, what I have left is, okay, let's bring in territories before we bring in sales. Let's bring in territories. So I'm going to territories, awesome. Let's bring in territories, then we'll bring in sales. All right, so these are the territories of data. These are the territories where we sell stuff, right? So we can easily just transform that and then bring it in. I hope you are paying attention to the changes that I'm making, right? So that you can do the same for your own data as well. So I'm going to first of all change that to AW territories. And this is good, right? This is country. All right, this is good. So we can say close and apply. Are you following me? All right, now we have returns, we have products, we have territories. Now there's one more that I want to bring in, which is the sales data, right? So I'm going to go to, if I go to text, now look at my sales. If I click on sales, I have 3 data inside of it. I have what? 3 data inside of it. Now, I want to bring in this data. They are the same data. They're just what? They're just for different years, right? They are the same data, except that this is sales for 2015, 2016, and 2017, right? So how do I bring this data in at once? How do I bring them in at once, right? Instead of using, what's it called now? Text or CSV, I'm going to click on more. I'm going to click on more. And I'm going to go to folder. Now, when you want to bring in data that way, you want to make sure that they have the same number of columns. Now, they have the same number of columns and they have the same data type. It's like doing a joining. Remember joining in SQL? So it's like doing a joining. They must have the same words. They must have the same column names and they must have the same data type inside the data. That is the only way you can merge tables together. Are you following me? Right? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? All right, look at it. I'm going to select folder right now. I'm going to connect to that folder. All right, so it's asking me where is this folder that I'm talking about. Desktop, okay. Says AWS sales. I say okay. All right, so this is the data, right? This is the data. And you see, this is the data, right? So this is we call this the metadata of the data. That is the description of the data, the description of the data. So look at it. We have binary, right? The content is binary. The name of the folders are this. The extension is the .csv, right? Date that they are accessed is this date, right? Last modified is this date. The date that they were created is this date. Attributes are record, and their what? Their file path name is that, right? So we can combine this data, right, or transform the data. Let's click on transform to see what we have there. Then we'll go to combine, right? All right. So if you look at it in this situation now, instead of me having the actual data, what you have is what is the what metadata. Can you see? You have the metadata of the data, right? So the actual data is not here. The actual data is not here. So what do? Let's go back to that. Let's close. We'll go back to it and we'll go and bring it in again so that we can combine this time around. All right. I hope you're following me. I hope you're following me. Please don't lose me. Just follow me. Folder, connect. Browse where the folder is. It brings me to this environment. So now I can say combine. Well, combine and load. Combining the data now. It's evaluating the query, right? It's bringing all the data together now, right? And it's loading it in gradually, right? You can combine and transform. You can combine and load, right? But let's see what it gives to us, right? So we're bringing in the sales data now. Awesome, right? So it has combined the data. Look at it. If you look at the first file, right? Can you see 2016 is the first file? Look at it. You have all the files there, 2016, 2017, 2015, right? So if the files have error, if you want to skip files with errors, right, you can do that, but just leave that on checked. We're just going to say okay. Coming in. All right, so that is our sales table now. Let's look at the sales table. Let me edit the name, rename. All right, don't want it to be 2. All right. Oh, okay. Discard changes. Discard. All right, let's leave it that way so that we don't waste time. We don't have the battery to do that. Right, so this is the AWS table. This is the AW sales table. Can you see the sales table? Are you following me? That's our sales table. So we have what's the source name, we have the order date, we have the stock date, we have the order number, we have the product key, we have the customer key, we have the territory key, we have the order line item and the quantity ordered, right? So first of all, in dealing with this data, you would see that the source name is not needed, right? We don't need the source name because it's just basically telling us about, can you see? AdventureWorks 2015, 2017. So we don't need that column, right? For a column that we do not need, we will have to remove the column, right? We have to remove the column. So I'm going to delete that column. Yes. Sorry, I have two AWS sales. That's why I'm removing one. Right, good. So that is gone. We edit this name. Please, I hope you're following me. I hope you're noticing these changes I'm making as well. All right, so I'm going to delete this column now. So I'm going to delete it. Yes, I'm removing the source. Awesome. So that source is gone. All right, good. So we have the date column now, right? We have the date column. Now, the date column, right? We will talk about all of these much later. We can edit the date, right? I don't want the date in, what's it called? I hope you're following me, right? Please know if you're following me. Now, this is my date column, right? From the column tools, I can edit the column. Remember, I'm in the data view, right? I can edit the name of the table. I can change the data type. Can you see data types are here? I can change the data types from there. Now, but the format of the date, right? This date is in full text, right? I don't want it in full text, right? I can just change my date to short date, right? If I click on short date, right, that will be applied to my order date, right? Short date will be applied to the other dates. Can you see? That's changed them to short dates. The same thing for stock date, right? So that I can subtract the days from each other when I want to do some calculations on them, right? I'm going to choose on. So there are several types, there are several formats of dates that you can see here, right? So I'm just going to choose the short date. Awesome. Awesome. Right. My product key, right? My product key, even though they are numeric values, I hope you're following me, but these values are not, they are not what's it called? They are not, they are lookup values. They are not descriptive. They are descriptive in nature. They are not data that we can add together. But look at it, it's putting a summation on it, right? Now, what Power BI does is that it can identify, I've told you this before, it can identify the data type in a column and tell you the kind of analysis that you can do on it, right? Look at this now. The customer key, there's nothing in front of it. Order dates, right? If you click on the order dates, right, it puts an hierarchy. We'll talk about hierarchy later. It puts an hierarchy on date, right? It tells you, it automatically dictates an hierarchy. Can you see year, quarter, month, and day, right? So it automatically detects an hierarchy. We'll talk about that much later as well. Then order line item, right? Order line item, right? This is supposed to be a lookup value, right? It is not a value that we can calculate together. Hence, we're going to remove the summation on it. It's saying it as a value. Look at it. It's saying that you can sum this data, right? But we don't want to sum it. So if I don't want to sum it, I'm just going to say remove summarize. If I say don't summarize, right, you will see that it will remove the summation sign in front of that column, right? That's done that, right? Order quantity, yes, we can sum that together. Then territory key, I do not want to I don't want it to be it's not a value that we can sum together. So I want to remove the summation in front of that as well, right? So it's saying count. Count is what you have there. Yes, we can count it, but let's first of all still remove, don't summarize the data, right? When we need to do anything on it, we can easily change those values, right? So that is what you have in your sales data, right? So all of our data are here, right? I want to go into the data model view, right? You can see already that it has started creating data models. The tables are joined to each other. Right, can you see? The tables are joined, all the tables are joined to each other. Hold on. Let me zoom in, right? So let me bring this a little bit down. Right? I'm sure you are familiar with this already from SQL, right? Can you see territories is not linked to any table. Returns is linked to product, right? Product category is also linked to product. Product category, product subcategory. then customer, right? Can you see all the tables linked to each other, right? We'll look later, we'll check if the relationships are good enough, right? Why is this what territory not linked to any one of them? How do we make sure that territory is what is part of them so that we can use territory in our filter context, and so on and so forth, right? So there's a whole lot that we still need to do, right? But if you look at it, right, like Excel, I showed you when we're talking about Excel, right? Like Excel, Power BI can also detect, it can detect relationship, right? It can detect relationship amongst your tables, right? Or amongst your data. It can detect relationships, right? And by detecting relationship, you can see that it has created a simple data model. But we'll talk about the types of data model that we can create and all of that much later. Hopefully tomorrow we'll dive into all of that tomorrow, right? Are you following me? Please let me know if you are following me. Any questions so far, right? I think it is time to put it to a stop. I use a Mac, so I don't need to. Yes, what I default, right? Any question, please talk to me, right? Let me know if you captured every changes that I've made. Ebuka, I'm sending, Ebuka, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Yes, I'm sending a folder to you now. Please let me drop on the WhatsApp group.
Okay, sir.
Right, it contains all the data that we're going to be working with. Please, I'm waiting for your reply. I'm waiting for your responses. Talk to me, talk to me. All right, Ebuka, I've sent them. They're coming in gradually. Any question, any question, any question? Talk to me. Any question? So our assignment will be that we should, right? You see, I've not given you assignments in a few weeks, right? So our assignment will be that bring in all the data that I'm sending to you before class tomorrow, right? Bring them in, perform all the actions that you saw me perform, especially on the tables that we really worked on in terms of transformation, right? That table is the customer table. We did a whole lot with the customer table, right? We did a whole lot with the customer table. If you are lost in any way, you can always reach out to me so that I can put you through on WhatsApp, right? So transform the data, right? Like we did, right? I can always, I'm sure that you understand everything that we did here, right? We also worked on, I think, the product table. Yeah, we talked about the product table as well. The sales table, yeah, bring in the sales table as well, the same way we brought it in, right? Bring the sales table as well. If you look at it now, you'll see all that dates, right? You'll see all the dates. Can you see 2015? '16 and 17, right? Can you see that is all the data that you have? That is data that you have there, right? All the 3 years are what are available there, right? Because we merged the tables together. We merged the tables together. So you can see that product subcategories, we didn't really do anything except for change the name, right? Product category, we also did not do anything except for changing the name. Returns as well, right? Returns, if we click on returns, key, territory key, we can change territory key back to what's it called now? Don't summarize for that table, right? Don't do a count, right? We will talk about all of that later. We can actually do a count on that particular column, right? We can do a count to know how many product was sold in a particular territory, right? So we'll do all of that much later, right? So if you look at it, right, the descriptions are also there. Product category, there's really nothing there. Product cost, right? Yes, can you see? I was telling you about product cost before inside the product table, right? So doing a summation, doing an arithmetic operation on the product cost and product price, right? We'll talk about that when we talk about DAX, hopefully next class, right? If we can touch that next class, if not, to be upper class, right? DAX, right? So we have a long way to go, but most of it, right? We are finished out to what? How to connect and shape the data, right? We finished how to connect and shape the data. The next thing that we're going to be talking about tomorrow is data modeling, right? We'll talk about data modeling and yeah, we'll talk about data modeling and DAX tomorrow. We'll start. Data modeling is not hard, right? We have an idea of what that is already. So we'll just go deep into it and see how to create a whole lot of data models and use this data to create data models. Then we'll go into DAX, right? So DAX is where we now begin to talk about using DAX to do to perform calculated columns and measures, right? We'll talk about how to do calculated columns and measures, right? How to do calculated columns and measures, such that we are able to start creating visuals with calculated columns and measures, right? So we'll talk about that tomorrow, so that by next week, right, hopefully we can go into visualizations, right? Create charts after we have linked the table. And basically that's what you have in Power BI. You bring in the data, you extract, you transform, you load the data, right? You make sure that the data is ready and prepped for analysis, right? Then you create the data model, right? You clean up the data, you make sure that all the columns are available, they are neatly created, the rows are all filled with data, right? You can deal with all the NAs and all the what's it called now? All the irregularities in the data, right? That's what we're talking about in connecting and transforming, right? In connecting and shaping the data. After you're done with that, then you go into data modeling. You want to be able to create relationships in your data so that they can interact with each other, and you can create a beautiful report from that, right? Having said that, once that is done, right, you want to now be able to once the models are created, you want to create what we call calculated columns and measures, right, from the relationships that you have created on the data, right? Basically, this is saying that you want to answer business cases. We talked about a lot of these, some of these when we're talking about pivot table and pivot chart in Excel. So you want to be able to know now what is the total cost, total price, total revenue generated by a particular product, right? You can now begin to use measures, right, to do all of that. You can begin to use measures to do all of that. We'll talk about it. It's a very, very important part of this training, right? We'll talk about the DAX data analysis expression. Of course, we're going to use data analysis expression to do some of those things. Then from there, we'll look at visualizations, how to create your report, how to visualize your data such that you have the best visual for your data. Any question? I apologize once again. Let me put a stop to my recording now.